Ladies and gentlemen, the topic is this: let people go when they want to go. Now, you might be thinking, Jim, why on earth would I want to let people go? Aren't we supposed to hold on to relationships, fight for what we want, never give up? And I understand that thinking. It's natural. It's human. But let me tell you, it's not always the wisest course of action. You see, in life, we encounter all sorts of people. Some will stay with us for a lifetime, some for a season, and some for just a reason. And understanding the difference, my friends, that's where true wisdom lies. Let's start with a fundamental truth. You can't control other people. You can influence them, you can inspire them, you can even lead them. But at the end of the day, every person has their own free will, their own journey, their own path to walk. And sometimes that path leads them away from you. It might be a friend who's growing in a different direction. It might be a romantic partner who no longer feels the same way. It might be an employee who's ready for new challenges. Whatever the case may be, when someone wants to go, the kindest, wisest thing you can do is to let. Now, I know this isn't easy. It goes against our instincts. We want to hold on tight to what we have. We fear loss, we fear change, we fear the unknown. But let me tell you something. Holding on to someone who wants to leave is like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. Have you ever tried to keep a bird in your hand? The more you tighten your grip, the more that bird will struggle, the more it will want to fly away. But if you open your hand, if you give it the freedom to choose, something magical happens. Sometimes that bird will choose to stay right there in your open palm. The same principle applies to people. When you give them the freedom to go, when you respect their choices and their journey, you create an environment of trust and respect. And in that environment, relationships can flourish in ways they never could under the pressure of obligation or guilt. Now, I'm not saying this is easy. Far from it. Letting go can be one of the hardest things we ever do. But it's also one of the most necessary. Because here's the truth. People who want to stay in your life don't need to be begged. They don't need to be convinced. They stay because they want to, because they choose to, because they see value in the relationship. And those are the relationships we should focus on. Those are the connections we should nurture. Because a relationship built on mutual choice, on mutual respect, on mutual growth, that's a relationship that can withstand the test of time. Let me share a personal story with you. Years ago, I had an employee who was incredibly talented. He was hardworking, he was creative, he was everything you could want in a team member. And for a while, he was happy in his role. But as time went on, I could see that he was growing restless. He had dreams, ambitions that went beyond what our company could offer him. Now, my first instinct was to try to keep him, to offer him more money, more responsibility, anything to make him stay. But then I remembered this principle: let people go when they want to go. So instead of trying to convince him to stay, I sat down with him and asked him about his dreams. And you know what? They were big, they were bold, they were beautiful. And in that moment, I made a decision. Instead of trying to hold him back, I decided to support him in moving forward. I helped him network. I wrote him glowing recommendations. I even invested in his new venture. Was it hard to see him go? Absolutely. But it was also incredibly rewarding to see him spread his wings and fly. And you know what's interesting? Years later, that same employee came back to work with me again. But this time, it wasn't as an employee. It was as a partner, as an equal. He had gone out into the world, gained experience, grown as a person, and now he was bringing all of that back to our relationship. And our connection was stronger than ever because it was built on mutual respect, on the understanding that we each had the freedom to choose our own path. That's the power of letting people go when they want to go. It's not about losing relationships. It's about allowing relationships to evolve, to grow, to become what they're meant. Now, I can already hear some of you thinking, but Jim, what if they make a mistake? What if they're better off staying? Don't I have a responsibility to protect them? And I understand that thinking. It comes from a place of care, of concern. But here's the thing. We learn through our choices, through our experiences, even through our mistake. When you try to protect someone from making their own choices, you're also protecting them from their own growth. You're denying them the opportunity to learn, to evolve, to become who they're meant to be. Think about a butterfly emerging from its cocoon. It's a struggle, it's difficult, and it might seem kind to help that butterfly to break open the cocoon and make its emergence easier. But did you know that if you do that, the butterfly will never be able to fly? It's the struggle of breaking free from the cocoon that strengthens its wings, that prepares it for flight. The same is true for people. Sometimes the struggles they face, the choices they make, even the mistakes, these are all part of their journey. They're all necessary for their growth. And by letting them go, by allowing them to face these challenges, you're actually giving them the greatest gift of all, the opportunity to become their best selves. Now, this doesn't mean you can't offer advice. It doesn't mean you can't share your wisdom or your experience. But it does mean recognizing that ultimately the choice is theirs. Your role is not to make their decisions for them, but to support them in making their own decisions. And here's something else to consider. When you let people go, you're not just giving them freedom. You're giving yourself freedom too. Freedom from the burden of trying to control others. Freedom from the resentment that can build up when you feel like you're holding someone back. Freedom to focus on your own growth, your own journey. Because here's the truth. You can't pour from an empty cup. When you're constantly trying to hold on to people who want to leave, you're using up energy that could be better spent elsewhere. You're neglecting your own needs, your own growth, your own path. But when you let people go, when you release that need for control, you free up so much energy. Energy that you can use to focus on yourself, to pursue your own dreams, to cultivate relationships with people who choose to be in your life. And let me tell you something, there's a certain magic that happens when you start living this way. When you release the need to control others, when you give people the freedom to come and go as they please, you start attracting a different kind of person into your life. You start attracting people who are there because they want to be, not because they feel obligated. People who value your relationship, who choose it freely, who are committed to mutual growth and understanding. And those relationships, my friends, those are the ones that truly enrich our lives. Now, I want to address something that I think holds a lot of people back from letting go, and that's fear. Fear of being alone, fear of not being enough, fear of missing out. These fears are natural, they're human, but they're also limited. You see, when we hold on to people out of fear, we're not really holding on to the relationship. We're holding on to our own insecurities, our own need for validation, and that's not fair to us. And it's certainly not fair to the other person. But here's the beautiful thing. When you let go of that fear, when you trust in your own worth, when you believe that you are enough just as you are, something amazing happens. You start attracting people and opportunities that align with that self-worth. It's like a law of nature. When you're confident in yourself, when you're living authentically, when you're not desperately clinging to others, you become magnetic. People are drawn to that energy, to that self-assurance. And the relationships you form from that place of self-worth and authenticity, they're on a whole different level. They're not based on need or fear or obligation. They're based on mutual respect, on shared values, on genuine connection. So I want you to ask yourself, are you holding on to anyone out of fear right now? Are you clinging to a relationship, a job, a situation because you're afraid of what might happen if you let go? And if so, what might happen if you found the courage to release that grip? Now, I'm not saying it's easy. Letting go never is. But I promise you it's worth it. Because on the other side of that fear, that's where true growth happens. That's where you find your strength, your resilience, your true self. Forgiveness. Let's talk about another aspect of letting people go. Forgiveness. You see, sometimes when people leave our lives, they leave hurt behind. Maybe they betrayed us. Maybe they let us down. Maybe they just didn't live up to our expectations. And it's tempting to hold on to that hurt. to use it as a reason to keep them close, even if it's just in our thoughts. But here's the trueness, isn't about the other person. It's about you. It's about freeing yourself from the burden of resentment, from the weight of anger. When you forgive someone, when you truly let them go, not just physically, but emotionally, you're giving yourself a gift. You're saying, I choose peace over resentment. I choose freedom over bitterness. I choose to move forward rather than staying stuck in the past. And let me tell you, that choice, that's one of the most powerful choices you can make in your life. Now, I'm not saying you have to forget. I'm not saying you have to welcome that person back into your life if they've hurt you. But I am saying that you can choose to release the emotional hold they have on you. You can choose to wish them well on their journey, even if that journey is taking them away from you. And when you do that, when you truly let go with forgiveness in your heart, you create space in your life for new relationships, new opportunities, new growth. It's like cleaning out a cluttered room. When you get rid of the old, broken things that no longer serve you, you make room for new, beautiful things to come in. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about how this principle applies in the professional world. Because let me tell you, it's just as important there as it is in our personal lives. In business, we often fall into the trap of trying to hold on to employees, clients, or partners who are ready to move on. We offer more money, more perks, more promises. But here's the thing. If someone's heart isn't in it, if they're not fully committed, all the incentives in the world won't make a difference. I've seen businesses waste so much time and energy trying to retain people who have already checked out mentally, and you know what? It never works out well. The person stays, but they're not engaged. They're not giving their best, and eventually they leave anyway. But now there's resentment on both sides. On the other hand, I've seen businesses thrive when they adopt this principle of letting people go when they want to go. They create cultures of openness and honesty where people feel free to express their ambitions, their dissatisfactions, their desire for change. And you know what happens? They end up retaining more of their top talent because people appreciate that freedom, that respect for their individual journeys. And when people do leave, they leave on good terms. They become ambassadors for the company. They refer new talent. They sometimes even come back with new skills and perspectives. It's a win-win situation. So if you're a leader, if you're a business owner, I want you to think about how you can incorporate this principle into your organization. How can you create an environment where people feel free to grow, even if that growth takes them elsewhere? How can you show your team that you value them as individuals, not just as resources? Because here's the truths. The most successful businesses, the ones that stand the test of time, they're not the ones that try to control their people. They're the ones that empower their people, that support their growth, that respect their choices. Now, let's talk about something that I think is crucial when it comes to letting people go, and that's self-reflection. Because here's the thing. When someone wants to leave our life, it's easy to focus all our attention on them, on what they're doing, on what they're thinking, on how we can change their mind. But I want to challenge you to turn that focus inward. When someone wants to go, instead of asking, how can I make them stay? Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Maybe there's a lesson about how you form relationships. Maybe there's an insight about your own behavior or expectations. Maybe there's an opportunity for growth that you've been overlooking. You see, every ending is also a beginning. Every goodbye is also a hello, it's something new. And if we're willing to look, if we're willing to learn, these transitions can be some of the most powerful teachers in our lives. I remember a time in my own life when a close friend decided to end our friendship. At first I was hurt. I was angry. I wanted to convince him to change his mind. But then I took a step back and I asked myself, what can I learn from this? And you know what? The answers I found were invaluable. I realized that I had been taking the friendship for granted. I realized that I hadn't been as supportive as I could have been. I realized that I had some work to do on myself. That experience, painful as it was, became a catalyst for tremendous personal growth. It made me a better friend, a better listener, a better person. And while I was sad to lose that particular friendship, I'm grateful for the lessons it taught me. So the next time someone wants to leave your life, I want you to see it not just as an ending, but as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to become a better version of yourself. Now let's talk about something that I think is really important when it comes to letting people go, and that's gratitude. You see, it's easy to focus on the pain of loss, on the void that's left when someone leaves our life. But I want to challenge you to focus on gratitude instead. Be grateful for the time you had together. Be grateful for the lessons you learned. Be grateful for the memories you shared. Because here's the truth. Not everyone we meet is meant to stay in our lives forever. But everyone we meet has something to teach us, something to offer us. When you approach letting go with gratitude, it changes everything. Instead of feeling like you're losing something, you start to feel like you've gained something. You start to see the value in the experience, even if it didn't last forever. And here's something else. Gratitude helps us let go with grace. When we're grateful, we're less likely to cling, less likely to try to manipulate or control. We can wish the other person well on their journey, genuinely and sincerely. I want you to think about someone who's left your life. Maybe it was recently, maybe it was years ago. Can you find something to be grateful for in that experience? Can you see how it shaped you, how it helped you grow? If you can, I promise you, it will change how you feel about that ending. Now, let's talk about something that I think is crucial when it comes to letting people go. And that's self-love. Because here's the thing. Our ability to let others go is directly related to how we feel about ourselves. When we love ourselves, when we value ourselves, when we know our own worth, letting go becomes easier. We don't feel the need to cling to others for validation or security. We don't fear being alone because we enjoy our own company. We don't compromise our values or our happiness to keep someone in our life who doesn't want to be there. Self-love gives us the strength to say, I respect your decision to go, and I respect myself enough to let you. It gives us the courage to face the unknown, to trust that we'll be okay even if this particular relationship ends. So I want to ask you, how's your relationship with yourself? Do you treat yourself with kindness and respect? Do you value your own needs and desires? Do you believe in your own worth, independent of what others think of you? If the answer to any of these questions is no, then that's where your work begins. Because I promise you, the more you love yourself, the easier it becomes to love others freely, without attachment, without the need to control. And here's the beautiful things. When you love yourself, when you're secure in your own worth, you actually become more attractive to others. Not in a superficial sense, but in a deep, meaningful way. People are drawn to those who are comfortable in their own skin, who don't need others to complete them. So work on your self-love. Nurture it, cultivate it, make it a priority. Because when you truly love yourself, letting others go when they want to go becomes not just possible, but natural. Now, let's talk about something that I think is really important when it comes to letting people go, and that's trust. Trust in yourself, trust in others, and trust in the universe. First, trust in yourself. Trust that you have the strength to handle whatever comes your way. Trust that you can survive, even thrive, without this particular person in your life. Trust that you have the wisdom to learn from this experience and the resilience to move forward. When you trust yourself, letting go becomes an act of self-empowerment rather than a surrender to circumstances. Finally, trust in the flow of life itself. Trust that endings make way for new beginnings, that closed doors lead to open windows, that what's meant for you will not pass you by. When you have this trust, you can release people with peace in your heart, knowing that this letting go is part of a larger plan, a greater journey. Remember, life is a constant cycle of hellos and goodbyes, of holding on and letting go. And in this dance of life, the more gracefully we can let go, the more beautifully we can embrace what comes next. So, my friends, let people go when they want to go. Do it with love, do it with gratitude, Do it with trust, because in doing so, you're not just setting them free, you're setting yourself free too.